Peace. My name is Iron Moore, the Supreme Super Dimension and Universal Peace, Love, and Happiness. These are Allah World Manifest interviews commemorating the legacy of Allah and his courageous stance to come into the various ghettos of New York City and to bring the knowledge of self to the human families of the planet Earth. In this science and discipline, we're interviewing one of the young people. His name is Latee, and he would tell us about the experience upon meeting Allah. Peace.
My name is Brother Latee. I met the father when I was very young, like 15 years old. And I was intrigued by his concern for black people as a whole. So what I did was I went with some other brothers down to the basement to see this man who was talking about not eating pork, learn to be civilized, learn to love yourself, and learn to love those where you came from. So I really didn't have any information about myself other than I was a black man or a Negro at the time who didn't have no direction. So I used to come up to Harlem from the Lower East Side. So when I would listen to this man, I was impressed. I was impressed with his fairness and his understanding about the lessons and things like that he was speaking about. So I said, let me get a little bit more information. So I was with this brother named Arkil. Was when I used to come up to Harlem, he used to show me where to buy clothes. So I said, Arkil, what about the brother who's telling you to change your name from so-and-so to so-and-so? He said, that's the father. That's the one who educated me about knowledge of self. So Arkil was with the father's biological son, BLR, at the time. So I said, well, I want to get some more information about this because I see that you're a changed man. You're not doing what we used to do to get our clothes. So I was listening to him. He was changing, and he was at peace with himself. And I said I was still following the direction of the 85%ers, deaf, dumb, and blind, and selectively choosing and picking what I thought was right from wrong. But I was mostly impressed by the father's information. And to me, he was like a force to be reckoned with because he had the information and the lessons that I wanted to learn to get better with myself. Because at that time, they used to have a saying, show and prove, and justify your existence. And they would give us information to talk to people about, and I would say, this is really good information. But now how are we going to give it to these people who are deaf, dumb, and blind? Because I didn't consider myself deaf, dumb, and blind because I had some information. But the father said, y'all have to practice what you know. You can't speak about what you know unless you put it in practice or application. So I got locked up, I went to jail, and that's when the 5% nation at the time was booming in prison. So I said to myself, well, we need to get some literature. So I went to the warden, I had the contact with the warden. I said, we need to have Islamic literature published in the prison system for us because the Christians have their literature, the Jews have their literature. We don't have the means of getting our literature. So we started getting Islamic literature. First we got the Muhammad speech, then we got the Reader's Digest, then we got the 1 to 10, then we got the 1 to 40. And at that time, back in the 60s, like 67, the father was assassinated by some cruel individuals. And I was in the institution with his biological son, BLR, and they said, you're not going to go visit, you're not going to go to the funeral for your father. So I told them, don't worry, we're not going to riot. We're going to build on the fact that they didn't let us get them. So they're trying to destroy us, so we're going to build and destroy them by being righteous. So they blocked us all on a company called One Company, that if you had Islam on your record, this is where you lock at, this is where you stay for 23 hours. So I was able to study and learn information. So I want to be down with anybody who wants to recognize the truth and want to build on the freedom, justice, and equality. So I was really impressed with Islam. So when I came home in 1970, I came to the academy. And there was a childhood friend of mine who was a 5%er named Jamil. His government name was Leroy Sanders. And he was a good friend of mine. We was in juvenile detention together, and me and him started talking. And I said, "Brother, you're in the right place, and we both in the right place, because Allah has gave us the information." And it was not by accident he was called a father, because he furthered people's information. See, a lot of people think father does mean a biological man who makes a son. No. Father also means a person who furthers the information on to those children that is under his care. And that's what made him such a great man, because he built a nation regardless of what people thought about him. He was talented, he was inspiring, and he was very, very educated about who he is and what he is and who he's about. And that's what I gravitate towards. I love Islam, and I don't have no area with telling people the only salvation for black people as a whole, and I love other people, but I first love my people first. The only salvation for black people is Islam. And if you don't, and the greatest gift that Islam could do is change your diet. Because if you change your diet, you change your mindset. And if you change your mindset, you change your direction. And if you change your direction, you'll change what's been happening to you to have something different happen for you. Islam is a freedom. That's why when they say, I self, Lord and Master, don't take that for granted. The only way you can be a Lord and be of yourself and be a master, you're under the umbrella of Islam. But I love Islam, I love the brotherhood, and even the school is teaching brothers how to be self-reliant, be economically independent of anything and anybody. And this is what the Father was teaching. He was teaching you, do for yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to do for you what you could do for yourself. Educate yourself, inspire yourself, and build for yourself. And don't follow anything or anybody. Learn from your experience to be a better human being. And with that, I got to be short and brief because I don't want to gravel. But I learned a lot from Islam. I learned a lot from the Father. I learned a lot from the Father's brothers, who he educated, because I'm a product of all of that. And I thank Allah for giving me such an inspiration to still stay in Islam after 50 years. I still stay with Islam, and I tell people today that you don't have to eat pork. Pork is not a delicacy. Pork is a way of killing you and keeping you deaf, dumb, and blind. I learned the 120 lessons, and I learned more. But most of all, I learned how to do for self, and not to be a follower, but be a man of independent thinking, because that's what Islam teaches you. And that's what the Father was teaching us, how to do something for ourselves. And the brothers here have a unique opportunity to go further, to build further, because when we got to school, the school is to educate, not to hang out, but to educate and inspire people to let them know that they can get something for themselves and build off of it as a foundation from where we came from. Because if you forget where you came from, you'll not know where you're going. And with that, I'd just like to say peace to all the brothers and all the gods.
Peace.